Hello and welcome back to my scrap room. My name is Jennifer Perry, and today it's going to be a little a little weird to film because, hold on, let me grab it. This guy is learning his scrap room manners, and he's having a bit of a problem with it. So if you hear him bouncing around, he just turned the printer on. If you hear him bouncing around or trying to get on the table or whatnot, I'm going to have to stop and redirect him because he is learning his scrap room manners. And then the other thing is I have a cold. I've been trying not to film with a cold, but last night I had a question on Facebook that I need to address, and I told this person that I would address it and that it would be easier to address in a video. The questions that she has, there we go, I finally spit it out. It would just be easier if I could just visually show you guys what her questions are and the answers to it. She basically has started out in stitching and wants to know everything. So I'm going to just try and make a video real fast of basically how I got into it, the tools that I use, and I'm going to show a basic stitch. I've done this in the past a little bit, but not all in one video. So here goes. Hi. Yes, no? Okay. So her first question is, what are the pokey sticks that I use that retract? These are this one's been worn off, so I actually bought a new one. These are the Tim Holtz Tonic Studios. They're either called picks, I call them pokey sticks. This is the older version that's red. I just picked this one up. I get them at the Hobby Lobby, Amazon, Michael's. You know, she mentioned that she's in Canada, so there's some stores she doesn't have. But this is Tim Holtz, and it's the retractable pick, or I call it a pokey stick. And I have several of these because I tend to want one in each of my go bags. So I've got one on my desk. I've got one in the bag that goes with me when I travel to retreats. I've got one in my planner bag. I get them on sale with my coupons, and I have them everywhere because they are that good. This is going to be harder than I thought because he's used to my undivided attention. Her second question was, how do I get my lines so straight? First off, I have a plethora of tools that I have picked up throughout the years, and that's going to be the hardest part of this if you're just getting into stitching, because it is almost impossible to find stitching templates now. These are ones that when there were local scrapbook stores, I would go into the scrapbook stores, I would pick them up. I could order them on Amazon. I could, you know, if we traveled. Okay, take two. I had to kick him out. He was getting into everything cordage and papery, and those are two huge no-nos. And he wanted to be the center of attention. So pardon me, because I just ran down the stairs and ran back up the stairs. So now on top of the cold, I'm feeling breathless. But we'll get this taken care of. Don't worry about it. So anyway, like I was saying, I would pick these up at local scrapbook stores, at Amazon, anywhere I could find a stitching template, I would grab it. The only thing that I regret is this is my Old Faithful. I picked this up at a local store here in the Dallas area. Geez, Amy, correct me, was it 2002, 2003, somewhere back in there? We had a very nice local store here in in the Dallas area. It was not in Allen. I would have died and gone to heaven if it was. But they used to carry a ton of stitching templates. And my one regret is that I did not pick up 3 or 4 of these when I found it. So what I've done is, close to my heart, used to sell these. You still might be able to find these on eBay. It is the straight ruler. And then they also have this one, which has different designs on it. It's been close enough that you will probably be able to find a few of these on eBay. It is the Close to My Heart stitching template, or stitching ruler. Close to My Heart stitching ruler, I think is what it's called. And this is the closest thing you might be able to find to a straight edge for stitching. The other thing that I did, because this poor little thing is literally falling apart, so I've had to come up with different ideas on how to make another one, is these are for leather making. I had to stop and think for a second what they are. They're for leather making, and they have a brown paper coating on them, which my husband is working on taking off. He has gotten one off, so it's completely clear. So that one he's gotten cleaned off. He's working on trying to get these off. They have an adhesive on them, so it's taking a while. I ordered these from eBay in the leather working section, and I believe they're from Taiwan, so they took forever to get here. So since I was ordering from so far away, I ordered 4 or 5 of them, just to have, because I learned my lesson. And this, the holes are a bit small. Where's my, here it is. So the problem that you end up with is, if you look, I don't know if you can see, gosh, I hope you can see, the tip does not go very far in. He wants in the door. Oh, he's going to make me cry. So that's the one thing that makes this one hard to use, is the tip does not go all the way in. And you want one that goes like at least that much, so you can do multiple layers. So that's one problem that I've been having. The other thing that you need is some sort of pokey pad. He's going to make me go open the door. He's crying. So this is the Close to My Heart one that comes with the stitching set. This one is by Basil. It came with, I think, this one. So I think these were a set. By the way, I used the bologna out of this thing. And then this is my go-to all-time favorite. This is my favorite pokey pad. It is just a 12 by 12 piece of cork that I picked up from the office store. It is meant to be a bulletin board that you put 4, you get 4 of these in one package. So it's meant to be 2 by 2 and make a bulletin board, self-adhesive on a wall. I picked up, I think, 2 packages of them, and they are just super thin, so they can go in your paper thing, like if you're going to travel, quite easily. They just sit with the paper because it's 12 by 12, and it doesn't get all pokey like this. So it's much easier to work with. It is 12 by 12. Did I mention it's 12 by 12, which means you're not scooting your paper back and forth. So you will need some sort of little tomato. I didn't realize there's such a bad glare. Here, let's do that so there's not such a bad glare. You will need some sort of little tomato to keep your push pins and your favorite needles and whatnots in a safe spot. I have carpet and I have cats. I do not want a needle to get into my carpet, and I do not want my cats to get a hold of my needles, so I tend to keep them in my little tomato. This next one is personal preference. I use a bit of tape on the back of my work. You can use tape to hold down your thread, or you can just tie a knot in the back. Totally your preference. And then, let's do it this way. And then, of course, if you're going to do stitching, you need thread. With Close to My Heart being my main paper line that I use because I happen to love Close to My Heart products, I have a cheat sheet on the side that tells me every color that matches the papers. So the peacock paper in the DMC thread is 3808, and it says here peacock is 3808. So when I'm working, if I'm getting low, I could just make myself a little note, and next time I go to the hobby store, whichever store is your choice that sells embroidery thread, you can pick up the numbers. Now I use these numbers coordinate with the DMC brand of thread, and that's just the brand that I use because it's the easiest for me to get my hands on, and it normally goes on sale. Now I have to wind this one up. I haven't wound that one up, and I have to wind this up, and these are two These are 2 replacements that I haven't put away yet. But this is about what it looks like on my spools. And this is one of these is one of these. So I know just by looking, I've got 3 lilacs, I've got 3 pomegranates, 3 rubies, 3 or 4 apple, candy apples. And this is very easy to just fold up and take with me on retreat. The other thing that I do for my colors that are most used is I have these used to be candle jars. My mom cleaned out the wax. They were cute. So I buy a bunch of black at one time. I buy a bunch of colonial white at one time, which colonial white I believe now is going to be French white. I think. I haven't seen the color yet. Downside to not being a consultant, I haven't seen the new colors yet. So what I will probably do is buy a ton of both of those colors, and I just sit here and watch a movie and I just twine them up and fill this little jar up, because these are my 2 most used colors because they're both neutrals. And if I just want to add a little bit of texture to one of my layouts, I'll grab these, and they're all twined up and ready to go without me having to stop and take care of it. What do you do if you can't get a stitching template? What do you do if you can't find a stitching template? I've had to make my own. So there's a few things that I've done. First off, I went to my local hobby store. I picked up an embroidery stitch tool book that teaches the different stitches. And every now and then, it's nice to have, because every now and then I'm like, how do you do this and how do you do that? And I'm able to look it up and see how to do a stitch, or how to take care of my threads, or how to the different types of thread. And this book is made by DMC, so it is specific to their threads, but they talk about needles, they talk about threaders. Oh, that's what I don't have. Oh, here, let me show you. I'm going all over the place, I apologize. These are the threaders that I use, and I actually just looked on Amazon and I found a lot of 1,000, and I bought them because I use them that much. But it talks to you about threaders and thread types and needles, and so it's a really good all-around book if it's 3 o'clock in the morning and you have a question and nobody's awake. And then along the same lines of that, because I had to start figuring out a way of replacing Old Faithful, my stitching template that's falling apart, I had to replace it. So what I did was I found 12 by 12 blank stencil sheets. They are just a tiny bit thinner than I'm used to working with, so I'm going to have to get used to that. But what I could do is I took just a little bit of this. I took my favorite stitching template, and these are spaced out 1/4 of an inch apart, and I just connected them together and poked holes, and I made my own stitching template. So what you can do, since you don't have one of these, and I have been looking and I haven't found another one of these, and trust me, if I ever do, I'm going to buy 112 of them. You guys might not get any because I'm going to buy them all myself. But what you can do is you can go to the embroidery section of your local store and find a pattern, an embroidery pattern that you love, that you think would transfer well to paper. And then just pick up some of this blank stencil sheet and copy it onto the stencil sheets. And then you've got a template that matches any of these that you can use over and over and over and over in your stitching. Hopefully that makes sense. And trust me, I've done it. I just don't have any of the patterns with me any longer because the pattern paper is so thin that it doesn't last for very long. And I did it before I had these, and I just did it on regular vellum, and of course the vellum didn't last very long either. I have since, this is a new find, and trust me, I'm going to buy some more of this so that I have it if this disappears like everything else. So I made my own stitching template. I guess what we can do now is I can give you a tiny tutorial on how to stitch. So this is just a blank piece of cardstock, and I have, this is just a shot glass. I love keeping shot glasses on my desk just to corral small items. And what color do we want to use? Let's use something that will show up really well on the camera. Ooh, let's do clover. That'll show up really well. Yeah, that'll show up. Okay. So this is clover. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to unwind it. And it starts off as 6 threads wound together. That's way too big to work on paper. So we're going to unwind a good amount. And don't worry, I'm not wasting any of this because I'll be able to put it back on here and use it at a later date. The other tip I have is, so don't use your paper scissors on your threads because it will dull your paper scissors. These are Tim Holtz scissors. I have the big pair and I have the little pair. And these are what I use for any type of fabric, ribbon, thread, anything of that nature. I do not use my good paper scissors on threads or fabric or ribbons at all. Okay, so what we're going to do is, this is probably the part that takes the longest and it's going to be hard for me to show you. Is you're going to separate the 6 strands down to 3 strands. 1, 2, and 3. So just like that. Now you almost always end up with a little knot on the end because it just ties itself in a knot. That's fine. Just snip it off, and then I take one side and I twine it around my fingers. So you're actually getting double the amount of thread that you think you're getting, which is very cost effective because these, I can pick them up anywhere from 20 to 25 cents a piece when they're on sale. Not that one. Not that one. Yeah, maybe it is that one. Okay, so I've got my tomato. Now we're going to thread. And we're going to pull it completely down to the other side so it's doubled back over. So you actually do have, I think I just hit the camera, sorry. You actually do have 6 strands. If you tried this without separating it, instead of having 6 strands, you'd have 12 strands, and that is way, way too thick for paper. So we're going to just sit this right here. And now we are going to, I'm going to act like I'm going to do a straight line like I normally would. So I'm going to line it up. And I'm using this template because this is probably what you're going to end up having to do. And I want to show you on something that you are probably going to be making for yourself. When I get to the end, I don't put it in the end hole. I scoot it over one. Let me see if I can bring this forward so you can see a little better. Okay. You're just going to go through and poke the holes. Now we're going to take up both of our push pins. We're going to turn the paper. Going to line it up, and then that makes the end hole on that one. And then we're going to scoot it over one hole again. And this is what keeps it square. Missed a hole right there, but it'll be okay. It will be fine. Again, I'm going to scoot over one hole. Did it again. It's because I've accidentally poked a hole right there, so my pokey stick goes straight there. This is a thinner material than I am used to working with. So I'm going to use this end hole down here to line up the other side to make it square. And again, I'm going to stop on this one, and then I'll show you how to finish it. Here we go. Now this is going to make Amy yell at the screen. Amy is my best friend. Does not matter what corner you start in. She prefers tying knots. I prefer tape. It is an ongoing argument between the two of us. But to me, the tape makes it flat. To her, she prefers the knots. To each your own. So, started the hole, I've taped it down, and you're just going to go in this hole, and then back through this hole, and then back through this hole. And that is a connected straight line. If you don't want them connected, then you go up through that hole, down through this one, through that one, just like that. 90% of the stitching that I do, I use this one right here. Now, let me show you another one. Let me find one of my favorite stitches, because it shows a good circle. So for this one, say we wanted to connect together. See, I've already done this, and we want to connect it together. We're going to take our pokey sticks and put them in the hole. This one's going to be slightly off, but that's okay. And then poke our holes. And then we are going to start there. And I will typically have my template with me so that I can double check myself. So now I can watch where, make sure I don't get off the screen and you can't see anything. Typically when I'm stitching, I'm watching a movie or reading, listening to a book. Or something of that nature. I love just, to me, this is just mindless entertainment that can take my scrapbooking to a whole other level for just a few cents. Not very expensive at all. Now, does it mean that my scrapbooking takes me a little bit longer? Yes, because I almost always scrapbook. If you can't find where it is, poke a hole through the front and find it. But I almost always add stitching to my scrapbook layouts, because to me it just adds a little bit of extra dimension. It can also, say you're working with layers, it can help anchor the layers. I'm going to try and finish this run so you can see. That's why a lot of times if I'm stitching on camera, I will either speed it up so that you can see it, but yet not have it take up, the entire video, because it can take some time. But I also will add some background music for you guys, because I'm typically listening to a book. In fact, when Amy and I go on retreats, we typically will take headsets with us and just kind of look at each other and know, okay, we're about to start stitching, so we're going to go under, what we call going under. And we both sit there and put our headphones on, and sometimes we're listening to the same book, sometimes we're not, but we're just doing our own thing, enjoying our time together, but yet not having to talk the entire time. And almost always it involves stitching for me. In fact, we've got a retreat coming up very, very quickly. Okay, so we've reached the end of our thread. There we go, now you can see. We've reached the end of our thread, so what we're going to do, I'm going to scoot this up a little bit so you can still see, is I'm going to snip this. I'm going to tape it. Now guys, I've been scrapbooking since 2002, I think, and I have never had the tape fail at all, because I've also, you gotta remember, it's also adhered down with scrapbooking adhesive too, so I've never had a problem with the tape coming off. No, you can't be a good boy. Let me finish and I'll open the door. So now, we just put that away real fast. We just find our next stitch and continue. And I'm sure there's fancy ways, if I've got any embroiderers, fabric embroiderers, watching. I'm sure there's fancy ways of stitching it in and whatnot. It's paper. I'm not going to worry with all that. Now what's funny is I love stitching on paper. I cannot stitch on fabric to save my life. I can do a button, that's it. I can't sew, I can't make a dress, I can't hem, I can't do anything with fabric. In fact, I keep a seamstress in town quite busy. But I love to do stitching on paper. I don't understand it. You would think it would translate, but it does not. Whoa, I got my finger stuck in it. So now we are finishing the stitch, and we can just carry on with the straight line. Now see, for me, because I accidentally poked a hole right there a little bit bigger, I'm going to add a tiny bit of tape on the back side just to give it a little extra reinforcement. And then I'm going to just keep going. Now this works well with thicker cardstocks. It has been, well, I started Close to My Heart in 2005, and I've been using Close to My Heart products for that long. So they've got gorgeous cardstocks and whatnot. So if you're using a different brand of cardstock that appears to be a little bit thinner, you can always back it and put two sheets together. Or if it's just a tiny bit thinner, but you're scared you're going to poke a hole through it, you can always do your holes and then run a layer of tape behind it just to give it a little bit of extra strength. But typically with the more name brand cardstocks, or the cardstocks that are formulated to go through a Cricut, those are a little bit thicker and you do not need to add any extra backing. I know when Close to My Heart decided to partner with Cricut, they totally changed all their paper to make all their paper thicker to where it can handle the Cricut. So, and there we go. So if you have any questions about this, please let me know if there's something that I may have missed, because this is second nature to me. I don't think about it anymore. I just do it. So if I happen to miss something, or you have another question about something to do with the stitching, please comment below or comment in the Facebook group. I had to let the cat back in. I'm sorry. He was pitiful. So again, if you have any questions, please feel free to either leave a comment down below or join the Facebook group and ask the question directly there. Either one will get a hold of me fairly quickly. I'll be happy to answer any questions. And I believe I'm going to go ahead and do a playlist for the stitching stuff that I teach. So if you would like to be able to find it a lot easier, there'll be a playlist for it, And if you're wanting to know more in depth how to make the stitching template, I believe, and I'll go back and double check, I believe I actually made a video on how to make a stitching template. So I'll put that in the playlist also. Until next time, thank you so much for joining me. I know you've got things that you need to be doing today, and I am very thankful that you took a few minutes of your day to spend with me. Bye-bye.